Allstate follow-up video. Miserable rainy conditions. I don't know how much work I'm going to get done, but if you watched the last video, I put the Onyx all back together. I turned the throttle and it started to move. I was excited, but what ended up happening was I installed the motor incorrectly, which I didn't know at the time, but I ended up taking everything apart. And what I forgot to include on the outside of my dropouts was this little axle retainer, partially because it would have been a pain in the ass to install, and partially because I thought, since I'm not using a chain on this build, maybe I don't need it, but you need it. My axle spun, one of my 3 power feed wires dug into my dropouts. I couldn't see it at the time because it was covered in all that conduit, and I cut at least 1 sense wire, probably more. When I was back probing, my voltage was fluctuating on 2 holes and not on 1. I was like, that's bad. I never figured out if it was coming from the motor side or the controller side. Maybe I thought, oh, maybe I popped something in the controller. But
the good news is I just said, screw it. I ordered a new motor, a new controller. The company was very nice, and they said, if something's broken on the old setup, send it back, we'll refund you. So that's a good thing. So today's project, I've got to mount a tire onto the new motor and rim, and then I got to figure out, this is going to be the trickier one, I've got to figure out how to put this guy somehow mounted on here. It's not flush, which would have made it easy. It looks like my leading candidate. This is a threaded mount for my fender, and even though the nut's on right now, when I mock that up, looks like if I shift everything a little bit forward, add a couple washers, I might be able to make it work. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get any supplies, so I looked around and I tried to source as many washers as I could that would fit the axle. This one's left over from a Harley I used to have, and it's perfect. Nice, thick. I think on one side that should do it alone, but it's too big where the wires need to go, so I've got 3 other options. I'll show you 2 of them. They're a little bit smaller in diameter. They don't quite fit around the threaded axle, so I'm going to have to grind those out and then cross my fingers, hope for the best. I also need to look for longer fender bolts, M8 by 20s. So it's kind of, everything's doable. It's just going to take some time. Stay tuned. So the washers are behind the bracket, and the bracket looks like it's going to work perfectly with that fender thread. Only thing is, this bracket needs to be bored out to an M8.
alright, wheel is now on. That was a pain in the ass. They're always a pain in the ass. Something special.
It should be snug. The axle should be free of rotation now. Next step is to hook up these motor wires to the controller. Alright, we got the motor wires mounted to the controller. Now we gotta plug in the battery, and I believe we'll be able to just loosely test everything with no weight on the axle. So I've plugged in my Bluetooth. Bike's been on. I didn't cycle anything. I'm kind of curious to see what it does. I downloaded the app, and let's just do this. I've never used this MQCon app. I've never used a Sabaton controller, so we'll do this together. Looks like parameters. That's just giving me readouts. Motor temperature 400 degrees Celsius. That's not good. Oh, I don't have a thermostat. All right, there's a gear up top. Let's see what that does. 60 for low voltage, that's pretty normal. Over voltage seems a little high. DC current, that's pretty good. Back phase current, good. Temperature setting, this must be for the controller. I don't know the specs, I'll have to look that up later. Ah, e-brake's not turned on. So let's turn that on and test it. So throttle. Then when I hit the brake, I'm using regen, but I'm also using the drum up front. Now I'm gonna throw everything back in if I have enough daylight.